Hey guys, I'm Daniel Norton. Welcome to my channel. This is actually a rebroadcast of a photo editing session I did on Twitch last Sunday. So every Sunday, 3 o'clock Eastern, I do photo editing on my Twitch channel. We basically go through a lot of the photo shoots that I do. I talk about kind of my thought process when I made them. So they're a good kind of extra credit or behind the scenes if you watch some of my videos on Adorama or other places. I'll get a little more in depth as I'm talking about the images as I do some brief editing in Capture One. If that kind of thing interests you, go ahead and follow me on Twitch, and I'll see you next Sunday. All right, so like I said, we did a few shoots. So I already have it copied over into my mouse there's into my computer here. So I've probably talked about this before. I know I have. I've got two Drobos that are like my storage. So Drobos are basically RAIDs. So if you don't know about RAIDs, then essentially it's a bunch of hard drives that are constantly backing themselves up. That's the simplest way to describe it. And get more into it if people are interested. But so I have two Drobos. One's like my long-term archives, and the other one is like, you know, the current stuff I'm working on. So if I come over here, I have my photo shoots category, which is basically, I mean, the way you get to it is 2020 photo shoots, right? But I put it over there for you guys for convenience. And then this tells me all the shoots I've been doing. So I have actually, I think all 4 of these need to be edited or need to be gone through. 5 of these, I guess. But we're going to do the doubles today. If we have the time and I have the energy, I will maybe do the individual ones as well. Oh, well, that seems terrible, but okay. So again, it's Capture One, so I'm going to go here. I always name all of my sessions the date, right, with the year first, so if they go alphabetically or numerically or however you want to say it, in order. Because if you look up here, I have stuff from 2019. It's there. Like everything's in order if you do it this way. So the date, which was the 2020, as we all know, it's the 8th month, 27th day. That's when we shot this. So let's open up and see. Let's see what kind of craziness we got going on here. All right, so now with this window open, it might be a pain in the butt. I can see my window reflecting, so we'll see how that's going to work out. That should be fine. All right, so I've got all the images we've shot that day over here. Let me go into my editing screen. You know, they're all over here to the right. And the way that we edit these is we're going to do a subtractive editing. So I'm going to make them all 3 stars to start with, because I use the star system to edit. So I'm going to select all, which is Command A, and I'm going to hit 3. It should be noted, I guess, that if you don't have this selected and you select multiple things, it only actually changes the one on top. See how I just made that one 4 stars and this one's still 3? So make sure if you're doing that, I guess I never say that, but it's kind of important, I guess. When you're doing that, you want to hit this thing here to make all your adjustments work on all the images, unless you just want them to work on one image, I suppose. Okay. Just get to the class. Okay. Yeah, dating during COVID must be a very strange thing. I can't even, I'm not even going to go there. Okay, so like I said, there's going to be a lot of test shots here. We were kind of working out an idea. We didn't really have a fully fleshed out idea, so the first handful of shots are going to be just like me putting lights in places to see. And oftentimes I'll do that, especially if I'm working with somebody or a group of people, in this case 2 people, that you know, I've worked with before, and we just say, hey, let's do something cool. You know, don't be afraid to just try stuff. So essentially, I knew I wanted to use grids, so I think this is just a single one. I think I brought a grid in. You can actually see it reflected in Trina's eye here. Little grid. That one's on her. I decided I was going to light them independently with grids, so I put the first one there and lit Trina. And then I moved it around to get a better position. You know, and again, we're still moving this one grid. And then I think I add, then I add a grid over here for Marissa. And then I'm like, okay, this is what we want to do. So all of these are just me not even worrying about the exposure. I'm literally just putting things in place to see how they might look. So, of course, none of these are going to be good. So I'm going to hit the number 2 on each of these. Well, before I do that, I'm going to come up here to the search bar, and I'm going to change this to 3 stars or greater. So now all the ones I don't want, I'm going to hit a 2 next to. I don't delete them. I just hit a 2. That way it comes out of my search. Okay, so now we brought over a grid onto Marissa, and the exposure is crazy. This can happen, you know, if you have especially small kind of, I mean, grids aren't focused, but they're really contained light sources, multiples in a shot in kind of an oddball situation, and then also two people with two very different skin tones, because it does come up in questions. You may find that the exposure is going to need to be tweaked. So clearly, like, this is pretty decent exposure for Sharina from her light, but Marissa's like completely blew her out in a sense. Like, and not even really. Like, if this was just a shot of Marissa, it's only a little bit bright. See, look, I'll break it down. I'll just grab the exposure slider. Yeah, like a third of a stop would put her well within like usable range, but because she's in a shot with another person, I don't want to push her to the very bright end of her spectrum and then leave Sharina neutral. That would be weird. It would make her look way, way brighter, which is what you see here. Plus, she's kind of giving a funny look, so we'll get rid of that one. All right, so here I'm balancing out the exposure. This is better now. And we're working out the positioning. So again, none of these are really going to be great shots. They're literally just putting the lights in place. Yeah, I think here I was like, okay, we get the exposure down. I shot it, and then the grids are too wide. So we end up tightening them up. So all these I'm just killing. Okay, here we go. Now we tightened up the grids to get a look that we want, right? We're getting this kind of very shadowy, moody light on this side on Sharina. And then we've also got this kind of, you know, it's a similar kind of light, but not the same, because each person's face is different and you want to light them differently. Even, I mean, that's the reason why when I do doubles like this with like grids and stuff, I do it this reason so that I can light each person their own way, right? If I wanted to light them both flat, then I would just do that, right? So I'm kind of creating this, I guess you might call this loop lighting with the Marissa. I'm leaving a little bit more open space because I think that looks better on Marissa. I don't like a lot of shadow on her, but Sharina can really handle the shadow. She got that face that can really, you know, looks good. So we kind of decided on this, and then, you know, we're kind of like working it out. So we got an exposure. So now we got a good exposure, good light position. They're looking all, and then we shoot a few, right? Now what's going to happen here is as they move, we're going to see. I think I decided I was going too moody over here on Sharina. Yeah, I did. See, there you go. See, I can remember when we do shoots right away. So here I was like, moody. Then I'm like, that might be too moody. So all I did here, guys, is I did the opposite of what you might think if you're not used to lighting with grids. In order to go from this, we're talking about Sharina here, to this, I raised the light, right? Because you have to consider that I needed to get the light up and around and under it. Because remember, the grid is so focused, right? So in this shot, it's not focused, it's just directed. In this shot, the hot spot's like in the middle. So I'm raising the light up, and you can actually see now her head's more lit. So that the actual brightest spot of the grid is now at her eye level. Now, got an alarm going off over here. Alexa, stop. Do I ever use the 2-star photos? If not, why don't I delete them? Why do they look like they want to stab me? Yeah, well, I mean, that is often the way. So so the reason why I keep stuff versus deleting it is because you just never know. I mean, I've gone back to photo shoots years later and found a shot that I really liked that was one that I didn't initially pick. So, you know, space is cheap with the hard drives. So I used to do 1-stars as well if it was like out of focus or you know, just completely terrible. I would put 1-star and then I would delete those, but then I just decided that it didn't really make sense. So I guess if there's one I really wanted to get rid of, I would delete it, but space is so cheap. I mean, I just can't see the point of it, but that's the reason why. Yeah, so we raised the light. So I mean, you know, normally I tweak these, but this actually looks pretty good. We can just go in and do our normal thing though, and just see. So normally I grab the levels. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna grab the brights, And you might think, well, no, you don't want to do that because Marissa's so bright, but it won't matter because it's only going to grab those. See, that's just going to separate her. See how three-dimensional she starts looking? I'm going back and forth clearly. And then I'm going to grab my neutrals, and that will bring her back down to a normal state. And then, let's see, little darks. That does actually look pretty good. All right, good. I think I'll leave it like that. So I'm going to Shift-Command-C to copy that. I think I'll go up and put it on the one above that too. I don't hate the ones with her eyes in darkness, but I feel like I liked it better with a little bit more light on her face. Now all hell breaks loose. So I decided, I was like, maybe I should put a fill light in and just, see what a fill light might do. And you can see that models do not like fill lights. If anybody will tell you, you'll see all kinds of videos, people be like, use fill lights. Oh, it's the best thing in the world. You see what happens when you use a fill light. They're all into it and moody here. Boom, fill light. They're just like, what? No fill light. No, I just, I turned on the fill light in TTL, and of course it did exactly what you would think. Can I shoot a color checker to help level out skin tones? I mean, you could. I don't think it's not usually an issue for me, but, you certainly could do that. Yeah, it's definitely grids. And Phil. Yeah, well, Phil is kind of a jerk. Yeah, they're not doing. Yeah, they're not liking that. They're like, oh no, turn this fill light off. It looks terrible, right? And then I turn it off, and look, boom. They're like, see, fill light, no fill light, fill light, no fill light, fill light, no fill light. That's what you want. If there's a lesson to be learned here, I just applied those same settings, which I think looks good. Okay. I'm actually going to keep that shot because it's funny. Okay. All right. So now I'm like, all right, now let me try the fill again. Because, whenever you shoot that, like the bad shot, you're like, oh, no. All right, good. We're back. Everybody calm down. We're back. So then I'm like, all right, let me set the fill light up first. So I came in and I dialed it down a few stops and I shot this, which is just the fill light. And then I brought it back in, I guess, one at a time. That's what I was doing there. Yeah. We're trying to figure out what's going on here. Clearly, we're not having any fun. So this is with the fill light. I think it's just very flat, though. I applied the same settings again. Yeah, it's not doing it for me. Some of these are kind of fun, though, just because we're having a goof. We'll keep that one. No. All right. In the end, I nixed the fill light. Because we didn't need it, it wasn't really necessary. We turned it down super, super low, I was gonna say, and it just didn't really do anything. So what I ended up doing was I spun the grid lights a little bit tighter into the middle, and actually Sharina's grid is filling Marissa a little bit. Here, you can see that, right? And Marissa's isn't filling Sharina because Marissa is, quite frankly, selfish. What can I say? I love the girl, but she's selfish. No, I'm just kidding. She's not selfish at all. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to raise my mids a bit here. There we go. A little more exposure too, I think. Nah. Down exposure. I'm going to exposure down. Nah, okay. I never really like to do that. I think I feel like I'm a little hot on Sharina, actually. So I'm just going to roll this back a little bit. And again, I could mask them out. I try to do global changes whenever possible. But I certainly could mask her out if I really wanted to just deal with her. I'm just dropping my highlights a little bit. I'm doing it. So that over here I'm in my highlight area. I just felt like the highlights on Sharina were a bit bright. Compared to the highlights on Marissa, who is clearly has a brighter skin by nature. So it's just the reason for that is just more lights hitting Marissa, basically. What modifier am I using? Grids. I'm using grids. I'm using Pro Photo System, so it's just a grid on the bear head. OCF grid, I guess is the technical name for it. Is it on-access fill? Yeah, it is. I know. A lot of people tell you that people like on-access fill, but I'm telling you right now, next time somebody says on-access fill to you, just be like, and then you know. You know that it's not right. There you go. Yeah, the softbox is basically right above my head. All right, so these are kind of fun. All right, so this is the one I just had. I'm gonna copy those settings. Let's go to the next one. Ooh. Huh. Okay. This one feels a smidge dark. I think I was using in fact, I know I was using the ProPhoto B2, and I think I was jumping it. This is where like power comes in. I mean, I could have used two B1Xs, which is what I would normally do, but I already had the softbox on the B1X, so I decided to use that as fill. You know, what that was my plan anyways. So I was using the B2, and I was actually cranking the power, because remember, we're shooting at f8, you know, with these grids lighting them. So I'm using the thing almost at full power, so I think I was occasionally jumping it, so you might see like it's a little bit darker in a few. You know, where the light just couldn't quite recycle fast enough. Seeing the way Sherry looks makes Seth's session come through as small beer. I miss this one. I don't know what that means, small beer. That's right, each other's kill light is fill light. That's right, each of their key light is acting as the fill for the other. More so, Shireen is filling Marissa's. Will this be on set? Yeah, it will be, but not for a bit. I haven't, it'll probably be a month. See, when you watch this Twitch channel, you get all the information ahead of time. Make sure you still watch the video, though. When you shoot groups, do you light each person separately? No. I don't normally light people separately when I light groups. The only time I really do it is if I'm going for something very dramatic. Oftentimes with bands, I mean, that's actually what was reminding me, I don't know, last week or the week before, I did a stream on my YouTube where I went back through some old band photos that I shot. It just reminded me that I used to shoot bands a lot like that, where I would throw a light on each person. So I had that on my brain, you know, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna let you guys like this. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of like an accent light on individual people, but generally speaking, if I was normally shooting like a group, I would light with a large light source or multiple large light sources to get everybody even. And then I might add a little bit of special light, but generally I don't light everybody separately. No. Not unless I'm going for something special. Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, technically the Pro Photo lights have a built-in reflector, so I guess you could say that the grid was on the reflector. But with the OCF, it just is a grid attachment, you know, it just goes right in the light. Also, I think that that's why in filmmaking and stuff, they call these egg crates, not grids, because that gets confusing. We use the same term for many things. Small light, no fuss thing. Oh, I guess I don't drink beer enough to know. I still don't know. What? Okay. Yes, this is true. I think this is kind of why I started doing this, was because I think it's interesting. Because almost always when I edit a video, I'm always like, oh man, I should have said something about this or whatever. So, I mean, I think that's the main benefit of watching these for you guys, I would imagine, is that I talk about the shoots. Plus, you will see, like in the video, you're not going to probably see all of these fun shots because they weren't in the video. Well, maybe some of them are. Ah, it's a Belgian expression. That makes sense. I will add it to my repertoire, and I will call Seth the small beer all the time, and he'll love that. All right, I'll probably will be using it incorrectly. All right, so, here we go. fun shot in between. I'm just pasting the same settings on. So again, these couple things going on. Their personalities, not just models, these two, they're my friends, and we're hanging out. So generally, I'm going to keep a lot more kind of fun in between shots because I know that they'll want them and that I'll want them. So if this was like unknown people, I might, like this one is not the most flattering, so I might get rid of it. I would definitely keep this one. Looks like that's a really good one. But I think for these guys like this, I'm not going to keep though, because that's just absolutely terrible. Oh yes. So here I decided maybe I'll light up the background to add a little bit of separation, and you get a completely different look, you know? This is actually, when I shot this frame, I'm pretty sure there's only one of them. Yep. I was like, oh God. It was exactly not what I was looking for. But looking at it now, it's not terrible. Let's see if we can make it a little nicer. I'm going to grab my blacks. Drag them over. Yeah, this isn't bad. Interesting. If this was like a client shoot, I would not give this to them because it's so different than everything else that it would be like, why do we have this shot? But I think again, because we're friends, I might do it. I'm gonna actually. No, that's not doing anything. Let me try shadow. I'd love to get those darks a little bit darker. Yeah. Right there. I'm mostly watching the dress. Like what if you watch Marissa's dress, right? Depending on where we put it. Because it's grabbing those edges. So I want to get enough of the dress, but I want to add contrast. So I'm just going to drop it like right there, just a little bit. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Nope. Yeah. This is what the looks I get when like I'm not getting the light from lighting fast enough, and they're just like, hello, when's lunch break? With hard light, it looks very fashiony. What would you do to edit it in a fashion editorial style? I would not do anything to edit it in a fashion. I mean, I shoot in the style that I shoot. I don't add stuff to my photos to make them more fashion or not fashion in post. Personally, I don't buy into that. It's not my style to do that. So, what I would do differently is I would frame it differently and have a different attitude if it was a fashion shot. I wouldn't change anything in post though. I'm not a big, oh, this is some effect you add to the on. It's not my thing. I mean, some people do that, and that's fine. I'm not no judgments. I think a very important thing in photography is that when we are shooting something, we should shoot it, when at all possible. And I mean, I'm not talking about walking around, you see something, you take a snapshot, but I'm talking about you set up a photo shoot. You should have some kind of purpose, right? So if my purpose was to make this more of an editorial / fashion, I would do it completely different because I'd be shooting it that way. To me, the thing you want to get away from, and maybe a lot of people do in the beginning, is shooting something and then going, oh, this kind of looks like this. Let me do a bunch of posts to it to make it that thing. It's much better to shoot it the way that you ultimately want to see it, because that's what you're going to have to do if you shoot with clients. So it's just good practice, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything. It was fashion. I mean, I would just shoot it. I wouldn't. This is not fashion at all. This is basically this is a portrait shoot, not fashion. Yeah, I like this kind of hard light vibe stuff. This never does well on the channel though, so we won't get a lot of views on this one. But I don't care. Sometimes I have to do stuff that I like. Yeah, what's going on here? This is when you ask them a question and they answer you at the same time. Or they were talking too much and I wanted them to stop, so I took a picture while they were talking. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, that was actually, oh man, hold on. There's a lot of GIFs going on here. We might have to do some GIFs. Hold on, where is that one? Okay. I may have to put that to some kind of Christmas song and make a GIF out of it. We're going to maybe work on that later. That way I'll really be in trouble. I don't know why it feels like a Christmas song. I think because that was from the Grinch, right? That thing I started. All right, so no, we'll get rid of that one. Okay, this is pretty good. Oh, yeah, the light's better on Shredder there. See, again, I'm constantly manipulating the light. I think we moved a bit, and I was like, oh, it's getting too dark in your eyes again, so I moved the light again. Now, the problem with moving the light is it does actually change the shadow pattern. Like, if you look over here, oh, I'm pointing with my hand. Look at this over here, and then when I change the light for her, the shadow goes back. So, it's when you're dealing with shadowy areas, this is just something you have to deal with. So, keep that in mind, but this is definitely a much better... In the end, pay attention to your subject. That's much more important than the background. The background is whatever, you know. Right, album cover. I had that problem on my first boudoir shoot yesterday. The two girls kept talking to each other. Oh. Kept getting my model in mid-speech. Oh, huh. Get Keith to the recording. I should do that. Yeah, I mean, I was joking, and I mean, you're probably are too. For me, the best shots are almost always some in-between moment, the ones I love the most. So for me, I love when people are interacting with each other. If you're talking about somebody off, when you say the girls, but like somebody that's not part of the shoot, like a makeup artist, that would be distracting. I do not like makeup artists and stylists and art directors and, you know, people's friends and whatever talking to the model while we're shooting. That I think is extremely distracting. And if you are somebody who works in one of those fields on photo shoots, do not do that because it will piss the photographers off. Because I know it pisses me off. If I work with a makeup artist, no matter how good they are, if they spend the whole shoot talking to the model while I'm trying to shoot, I will never use them again. Because that is incredibly distracting. And you can't build, you know, a connection with the model if they're constantly in somebody else's world. But if it's somebody else in the shoot with them, that's different. Oh yeah, this was nice. Like this one. All right, these came out. Man, and I thought I almost lost this video too because I recorded it under the wrong name. And I was like, oh. But then I found it. So I was like, yes. Yeah. I gotta do something with Keith. We keep saying we're gonna do something. It's just tricky when people are across the seas. Under the seas. Across the seas. Oh, right. Okay, so this is that moment where I'm like, okay, let's do some stuff. Let's just go. And we start shooting. And then, like, they're not in sync. Right? We got smile. We got serious. Then I said something, so they're both smiling. All right, so that's one thing you want to do when you're working with people. You unless it's like a completely, like super loose, like really real feel deal, you want to try to make sure they're on the same page, you know, because this doesn't make any sense, right? It would only make sense if they were like in a TV show and had very specific characters or something, I guess. But like that doesn't work together. Like if it was an album or whatever, they need to have at least a similar vibe. So I'm gonna keep it though because I think it's cute. And then of course I always like smiley pictures, so let me put that there. Good. I'm just putting the same. All right, so clearly we're starting the video now. So we should, at least in theory, get more consistently good pictures. Okay, so we're starting the video, so we're going to run into the shots of me building it again. So this is just the light on Sharina. This is actually a good example of what we were talking about before. You can see how much Sharina's light is filling Marissa. Marissa's only like, I don't know. Let's see. She's just about a stop dark, you know. If I use, in fact, if I only use the one light, you know, Sharina doesn't look that bad, even when she's a little overexposed. So, you know, this is basically what we're looking at over here is basically Marissa's fill light. Okay. Same thing here, right? This is Marissa's main light, but of course I know that they're going to be mixing together, and then it's a fill light on Sharina. Same thing. If I bring it up, you know, we can see that it's maybe a stop or a little bit less than a stop, about 3/4 of a stop under. And then we put them both on, and we can see now combined, they are creating a single image. Because remember that when you, this is actually something that people need to realize too when they're using light meters. I think people oftentimes will meter lights independently, and then when they take the shot, they're like, that doesn't make sense. You need to do both. You have to meter lights independently and then together, because together they will change. You want to do them independently so you can get your ratios, but then you want to do them together so you know your overall exposure, which is what we got here. And I'm, of course, always just shooting the same way at f8, you know, because I'm using a flash. Oh, yeah, Keith is amazing. Once our stylist kept talking to the model the entire time, yeah, no. Yeah. No. It's super unprofessional for them to do that. Yeah, you'd learn that meter in the hard way, yep. Yep. You got to take an average after the independent. And that will actually, you know, like if I was metering this with a hand meter, actually I probably should do a multiple subject shot with a meter would be a good way to show metering. Because I feel like sometimes when you just do it with one person, it doesn't seem like it's, I don't know, it's like it's not as intricate. So like if you were metering this, right, with a hand meter, you would meter here for Sharina's light only. You'd meter here for Marissa's light only, right? Then with Marissa's light, you'd meter here. And with Sharina's light, you'd meter here. So I guess you'd start with one light. You'd meter. That way you know what the ratio is, right? Then you would turn them all on. And you can see that it's actually pretty balanced out. Because remember that this light, the fill on Marissa was pretty much almost just a bit about a one stop under the actual exposure. And of course her main light is hitting that side of her face. So we can see that it balanced out. We get these shadows and stuff going on. This is a much more organic way to light. Like these are not, and by the way, if you're going to light like this, you have to really be wary of it, because I can tell you right now that if you're if you're one of those like, I'm going to heavily retouch the skin people, do not light like this. You'll have a hell of a time, because you can see the various shadows. It'll be really difficult for you to get around that. And if you remove the shadows, it won't make any sense. That's why a lot of times you see people do all this skin retouching and you're just like, what is that? Like, it doesn't make any sense because the shadows don't make sense. If you're going to do a lot of skin retouching and do that really flat skin, you got to have flat light. So, yeah, so in other words, don't use this with somebody that you need to do a lot of skin retouching. Use it for people that have decent skin, because you got lots of cross shadows, but it feels very organic, because when you see people in space and in life, they have lots of shadows on them. And that's why these have a bit more of like a naturalistic feel, even though it's clearly lit. So it's just a different way of lighting, and it's one of my favorite ways to light, actually. All right, I just applied the same settings, and it worked. Oh, something happened here. Looks like, can I add the fill light? I don't know what happened. The only reason why I asked that is because I got this weird shadow. Either I shot too fast, which could have been the case. So let's get rid of that one and see. Oh no, I guess I made an adjustment. I turned down Sharina's light, and then I turned down Marissa's light after. Although I don't think I should have done that, because I think the other exposure was good. Huh. Sometimes that happens. You're in a bright studio, and you shoot, and you're just like, oh, this looks a bit too bright. And then you make an adjustment, and then when you get back into your proper space, you're like, oh no, that doesn't look too bright at all. So I'm just going to adjust it a bit to get it. Also keep in mind, I mean, I mentioned this a little bit on the skin tone video, is that if you look at Marissa in person, and you look at Sharina in person, this is basically what they look like. You know, Sharina has this kind of like warm skin tone. She's, you know, got the Latin background. She's a Puerto Rican back, I believe. And plus she's tan. We can see her tan lines. Marissa is a ghost. You know, she's white. She's like me. She's basically English, Irish, whatever, like very, very light skin. You don't want to make it so that they're the same, because they're not the same. And I think that's the problem people do. They shoot somebody like, let's say, Sharina, and they blow them out to make them look like Marissa, or they shoot somebody that's like Marissa and you make them darker to make them look like Sharina. When you shouldn't do that. I mean, make sure that your exposure is okay so that both of them are correct, but they should look the way they look in the final image. Like, you don't want to be messing, especially, I mean, this is not an extreme example. You see a lot more of it if somebody has very dark skin. It's okay for them to have dark skin. Just make sure that you're lighting them in a way that separates them and shows three-dimensionality. That's really the key to any kind of skin tone, is to get that three-dimensional feel going, no matter what they look like. Okay, good. So I will do a video like that. Right. Good. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, she looks fresh. With those remotes, it's a great feature. We can globally adjust the lights. Yes. Yes, it is. Being able to adjust lights is awesome. Independently. I mean, it was so much more difficult to do stuff like this back when we had lights that only had like full power, quarter power, and everything was in full stop. You were throwing ND on stuff. I mean, being able to tweak each light independently and then also bring the whole thing up and down is just amazing. So the technology is great. Like, it really allows for, some good options. Okay, so that looks good. I copied those settings, and I'm just going to hopefully be able to just paste them. Yep. Oh, it happened again. He turned on the fill light. Why? Why would he turn on the fill light? Nobody wants that fill light. Here we go. Perfect. That's what my passport picture looks like. I mean, except I'm not Marissa or Sharina. So this is actually, I mean, if you want really, really flat light, I mean, obviously that was way underexposed, but this is literally the light right above the camera, the softbox right above the camera. It is the flattest light in the world. So if you're into that. So if you are a person that really likes ring flash, or you think you like it, don't buy a ring flash. Many of us have made the mistake of buying ring flashes. Just put a light close to your camera lens. It will look like a ring flash. It'll look nicer. So, I mean, that has a ring flash look. I mean, unless you want the circle in the eye, I suppose. Obviously, the exposure is terrible. Let me see, just because I feel like it, I'm going to try to... I kind of like how they look like a little bit like Stepford Wives here. So I'm going to try to save this one. And I'm going to grab my... Whoa! That's a little better than just doing the exposure slider anyways. It's still super flat, but at least we have... Oh yeah, this is definitely Stepford Wife area here. Yeah, this is good. That is terrible, but awesome. All right, I'm keeping that. All right, so we turn the lights back on to get the balance. Now we're back with our... It's funny because like when you're shooting like this happens to me sometimes. This is why I never start off a shoot with this kind of lighting. If I am shooting in this style, and then the next shot we need to do something like this, I'll shoot it, and I'll be like, I can't do it. But I can start like this because, of course, flat lighting is fun. Huh. Interesting. Look at the difference. Oh, not that one. Just looking at the body position, especially of Sharina. You see how that changes? Right? When you I actually like her expression on the first one better. She's more casual. But if you notice, her bringing her shoulders back, so she went like this, and lifting it up. Oh, no. You see the difference that made? It slims the arm, because I mean, I get this question a lot, obviously. And also, it helps, especially, it helps this area, because a lot of women will have, because they're breast and a lot of me, because I'm fat now, if you're wearing like a tank top, you'll get like, if your arm's down, you get almost like a bulge here. So pulling the arm back, I mean, she doesn't have that clearly because she's in good shape, but that'll help straighten that out. So that is, just keep the shoulders back. That's actually a really good pose idea that she dropped into there. Eyes closed, we'll get rid of. Boop. She's like, Marissa, look at me, Marissa. Forget it. Don't look at me. I said, don't look at me. Oh, they did that moment. I must have said, do the sexy thing. Because they were both like, yeah, I can't do it. That's why I'm on model. What happened? Oh, the thing, Nightbot grabbed somebody. Uh-oh, who's Brad? I didn't even catch that. Good thing I have my Nightbot out there. Oh. Stop spamming. I have to adjust that because I feel like people are getting slammed when they're not. Could I be wrong by having the idea that if the difference in skin tones would be more pronounced, it would be easier to set the lighting and playing on contrast? No, I don't think it would be easier. I mean, I think it would be the same, at least the way I'm lighting, because they're both being lit the same way, you know? Because remember, the amount of light. Okay, so if you are, this is something that's really tricky, because I think that using cameras in meters, it tends to make us not understand this as much until we start using a handheld meter. It takes, like, I'm wearing a black shirt, right? You can see me, right? Yeah. Although I'm not really in the light. There we go. So I'm wearing a black shirt, and, you know, my skin tone is pretty light. The same amount of light that takes to give me a proper exposure, making my skin look correct, is the same amount of light it takes to make this black shirt look correct, which is black. So no matter what, it's the same, right? That doesn't actually change if you're trying to make people look the way they want to look, or they look naturally. If you're trying to make somebody look different, then that's different, you know. But so it doesn't matter. I mean, I could have swapped out these two models and it would have been exactly the same. You know, it's just a matter of getting them to look correct with the light and then just leaving it there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. People are slamming too many emotes. You did too many laughing symbols. Bam. Yeah, you can. There's a limit. Yeah, I have no idea what that limit is. I have to go into Nightbot and figure it out. Although I will say this, and now I'm going to get slammed. It's going to happen to me, but I actually got the Nightbot thing because I get it for YouTube. Because when you go live on YouTube, a lot of times there's a lot of like porno things that like randomly jump into the chat. It's like weird. Like I don't know if they're porno things. I call everything like bad porno things. So you know, just like random like bots and stuff that jump into the chat. So it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue here. Oh man, 600 seconds. Holy crap! You guys are really messing with the bot. 600 seconds. You guys are screwed. All right, you're gonna get banned, and I'm not gonna let you back. Okay, so we got the attitude. Boom. I'm literally just dropping the same. Weird. Nope. Nope. All right, so something happened here. I think possibly Sharita moved out of her light because now she's just a smidge darker. I think she's not getting the fill that she was getting before. So what I'm actually going to do is just grab my mids and raise them a smidge. Man. All right, hold on. I may have to do some masking. All right, I'm going to do it. Let's try it. Normally I just wouldn't care, but I feel like it's a fun thing to try. I'm going to mask out. I'm actually going to go the opposite. I'm going to make Sharina proper. And I'm going to mask out Marissa. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go new empty adjustment layer. And I am going to grab my paintbrush, I guess. Yeah. I'm going to paint in, well, for the most part. I'm only going to deal with the highlights, so I'm not that worried about it, about being too perfect. I'm going to paint in Marissa's skin. And here. I won't do her eyeballs because I feel like that's weird. This also is like what it looks like when you wear one of those, like, you put one of those face masks on to make sure you have good skin. You know, it doesn't go around your eyes. There we go. All right, now I'm going to grab my... Yeah, that's perfect. I'm not going to do the exposure slider. I was just looking at that. I'm just going to grab my... Yeah, my mids. Bring it back over here. Boop. Boop. Boop, boop. There you go. We'll do a little... Actually, I'm going to grab my highlights. Bring it back. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Shadows. There we go. I will say, by the way, that I would never ever do this just to give it to somebody. You know, um, I probably wouldn't anyways. I wouldn't spend all the time because what if they don't like this shot? You know, it's like I'm spending all this time. I'm just more doing it for you guys. So what I did was I made a layer, an adjustment layer, right? Painted in the light parts or skin tone basically, and then I just made some adjustments. I adjusted the shadows, the highlights, the whites, and I also did a levels adjustment, which is what I normally do. And we can see if I get rid of that. Boop. So there she is, all really overexposed, and then boom, now I'm properly exposed, and we're good. There we go. That wasn't bad. I did it. I think every week somebody says to do an adjustment layer, and I never do it. So there you go. I did it for you guys. You have my attention. You did that just to get rid. I did update. Yep, I did. Well, hold on. What before or after feature? Oh yeah, what's the before or after thing? Oh yeah, I don't really use that, but I do have it. Yeah, I did update it, but I think there's another update since I updated. So, but I don't think any major features. I think it's just minor. So I finally did the adjustments. Yeah, so you can see what actually happened here. If you look at Sharina's hips versus this, she leaned back, right? And when you're shooting with grids, remember the grids are so tight. That's actually why she's lighter, right? Darker, I should say. She's darker there, and then see how she moves up? Boom. So if you're going to light with this kind of light, you really have to be wary of where it falls. I remember I was doing this shoot once. I think Fernando was there. I can't remember. They always give me crap about it because it was for this this rapper, and he had like these like women, females, whatever. You know, they were like sexy girls or whatever. And we did this whole thing where they were like all in a group around him, and he was like all like whatever. And I was using dado lights, and I literally lit like each girl's face separately, and then lit him in the front. And it took me all this time, and I got it down, and I like shot it. You know, I got everything down. I got all the exposures, and I made a test shot. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, perfect. And I turn around, and I look, and one of the girls, like random model girl, is like standing there next to the computer looking at it. And she's like, "Oh, that looks good." And I'm like, "Why would you leave the set? I just took all this time to set." And of course, she was in the back. So she like everybody had to move for her to get out of there. So yes, tight lighting. Make sure you tell people not to move. It's my own fault for not saying not to move, I guess.